Welcome, welcome to my Thursday evening sip and sew. How's it going? Alrighty. My name is Kelsey from Just Sew, and this Thursday evening sip and sew is kind of like a free class that I do, usually around a project that I'm working on or something that we've mentioned on our Wednesday Facebook Live or something that someone asked me to do a tutorial on. So I like to do it here live with you guys. I feel like this creates kind of a sense of community, accountability maybe if you want to sew along with me. And inspiration. So I hope that you guys have fun tonight. Tonight we're working on hand embroidery part 2. So there is a part 1. There's 2 different ways to access hand embroidery part 1. You can go to our videos tab on our Facebook page and you can see all of the past videos, the past sip and sews that we've done. Or I did just put them all on our website as well, and it's a little easier to access them on our website if you would prefer that. So our website is justsewstudio.com. There's a tab that says Facebook Live shows, and you can click on either Wednesday or Thursday, and this one's Thursday. So, hi Anne and Nancy and Susan. Hey guys. So in part 1 of hand embroidery, we covered some basic stitches. We did a stem stitch, fishbone, French knot, lazy daisy, running, and back stitch. And tonight we're going to tackle 5 slightly more complicated ones. I still don't think that these are very hard in the scheme of things, but I do think they're a little bit harder than the ones we did last time. Hi Karen. Thanks for hopping on. So I'm going to go ahead and transition over here to my project. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I've made a lot of progress in my little bunny garden woman. She has a flower crown. She has a skirt now, and most of my flowers are finished. These are the ones I'm working on right now, and that uses the long short stitch. And so that's going to be the first one that I show you guys today. Hi, Christine and Susan from Indiana. Thanks for joining. In all of these, I'm actually going to be using 2 projects today, but I did want to show you guys a couple I've done in the past. So this is my other one that I'll be working on today to show you guys. As you can see, I have just started it, but this one had some of the stitches I wanted to teach you that this project does not. So I'll be working on 2 different projects. And then I wanted to show you some of my finished ones. I like to keep them framed in the hoop and hang them on my wall. This one's called Autumn Leaves. I forget what this one's called, Spring something. And I love this little flower wreath one. So we have all kinds of these embroidery kits on our website. I link to it in the description of this video. It can also be found justsewstudio.com. Click on shop and then embroidery, and you'll be able to find it that way. So I just wanted to show you guys some of the really fun creations you can come up with hand embroidery. Hey Robin and Sarah and Missy. Oh, my hands are feeling dry. I wish I put lotion on, but that'll make needle gripping slightly harder, so I'll do it after. Okay, so we're going to work on the long and short stitch and the satin stitch first. They're basically the same thing, and I'll show you what I mean. Let me zoom in. Try to get close here so you guys can see. Okay. So, let me get all situated. I'm going to work on this cluster in this corner. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here with this flower is create like a fading effect. So it's going to be light at the top and dark at the bottom, and it's how you create the shading. This is also the stitch that I used to make the bunny. So you can see that the bunny has a bunch of stitches, but none of them are like it's not a bunch of stitches in a row. They're all just kind of haphazard. It makes it look like fur. We have all the different shades and everything. So this stitch is really great for shading and for filling in large areas, and you don't want the stitches to look like a straight line like this one. So I'll show you long and short first, and then I'll show you what the difference would be with a satin stitch. So I have my lightest purple colored thread, and this is going to create the top of my pansy, or like the lightest shade of it. And really, this technique is not hard at all. It's more, the complicated part feels a little bit more like knowing when to go long and when to go short. So I'm just creating a stitch here, and I like to rock my needle, so I poke it back up right next to where my last one was. Okay, and oh, I got a knot. Come on, little guy. I feel like I've become an expert embroidery floss knot picker outer because I get knots so often, and it's because I'm impatient. I know how to not get knots, and I just don't do it. Come on. Gotta get my needle under this. Okay. Okay, you know, I'm so close to the beginning that I'm just gonna see, this is another way I'm impatient. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, that was like a double knot, is I'm gonna create, if you can see here, I have a bunch of stitches that are kind of overlapping to create the shading effect. So I have two different shades of that purple, and then I'm creating the lighter shade here. So to not get those knots, I usually put my thumb over it so it kind of slows it down here at the end to get out any knots, and then we're good to go. So this is basically the same thing as satin stitching. So satin stitching is, I feel like normally you would use more than one thread. Today I'm just using one thread because that is what this pattern called for. But also I think you kind of need one thread for the long and short, because then you have a more fine gradation of these colors. If you are just doing a satin stitch, I would suggest doing 2 or more threads, usually 2, but you just create stitches right next to each other. That's pretty straightforward. But if you'll notice, the difference here with the long short is they're not all going to be in a row, meaning that they're not all going to start and stop on the same line. So usually a satin stitch, you might have one section where they all start in the same place and end in the same place. Mine are all going to end at this dark right here, but they're going to start kind of overlapping with this other color. So I'm going to, it'll come into this medium shade a little bit, and this is to make it feel like it's actually fading. You guys can tell. But I am stopping because of the way that this one is. I'm stopping here at this dark purple. And then if you can see this, there's a little bit of white right where my needle is. That's because there's a space in between stitches in my medium one, and I did that on purpose because I was allowing there to be space for my lightest color when I was ready. So I'm now that I'm doing my last color, I'm filling in all of the blank spaces from the medium one, and that's also what I did with the medium and dark. With the medium and in the dark, I left some empty spaces in the dark one so that the medium one could kind of overlap. So this is the long short stitch. I'm using DMC, yes, but I only have one strand. So like I was saying, different embroidery patterns or techniques might call for different number of strands. This particular pattern suggested one strand, which was perfect because all of my other lines in this design are so fine and detailed that I really did need just one thread. And in some places like this, one thread seemed a little too thick, but it can't go thinner than that. So, what I'm going to show you next uses 3 threads, so you'll kind of see how that looks as well. Okay, so I'm not going to also show you the satin just because it's basically the exact same thing. The only difference is the way that you fill in the space will be a lot more even and uniform with the satin. And the way you fill in the space with this is more like a shading effect where you kind of go between long and short stitches, just like the name says. You're able to fill in a space a little less uniform. I'm just going to finish this row right here, and then we'll move on to the next one. Have any of you guys used any of these kits before? I'd love to hear if you have one or if you have your eye on one. If you want something a little bit more beginner, I'd be happy to let you know, send you links to the kits I feel like are the easiest. I definitely think that this kit is a little bit harder. There's just a lot more to it. It's taken me a long time to even get this far, but this one actually doesn't have some of the more complicated stitches. The most complicated part with this kit was the bunny, but I actually had a lot of fun with that because I had never done shading like that with embroidery, and so I got to learn a lot through that process, and I had a lot of fun. This one is called Garden Bunny. Let me double check. Oh no, this one is called My Easter Bunny. We have another one called Garden Bunny, and it's just the bunny by itself. I actually think these are brand new kits of hers, the designer who makes these. And last we looked, she didn't have pictures for these on her website yet, so there's no pictures for this kit on our website. But it is called My Easter Bunny. You can get it, but you won't see the picture for it because she hasn't sent that to us yet. So I need to follow up with her about that, actually. All right. I'm just going to come up here. So you can see, isn't that so pretty? You get that shading effect with that so easily. You can see that this is the base of it, but then this is like the inside of the other side of the flower. So I just love it. I'm going to zoom out for you guys. There we go. Okay, so that was long, short, and satin. The other 3 stitches I'm going to show you are in this other project. So this is a one I just got called Happy Garden. And this one has much different stitches than the other one, actually. They don't overlap a ton. Pretty much every kit that she has uses some sort of stem stitch, maybe like a back stitch or a running stitch, something like that, to make straight lines. But then after that, sometimes they're all completely different. So I'm going to use this one to show you the fly, bouillon, and the spider web or woven wheel, depending on how you're familiar with that. And then I also realized that we could also learn the blanket stitch with this one. It's not very difficult. I can add that on there. Okay, so we're going to start with the Bouillon stitch. I'm going to first show you guys what I have already done. So the Bouillon stitch is a great way to get a 3-dimensional flower. So this is kind of, it's sticking up. You can see here on my fabric, it's very 3-dimensional. And it's a lot of loops here. And some of them I was able to create this like curved effect. And I did that by putting extra loops on a shorter amount of space. So I'll show you how I did that. But this particular flower is going to have 2 more layers of these Bouillon stitches to create the flower, which is so pretty. So I'm going to be creating it might be easier to show you guys. This color does go on the inside here, but I might just do it over here so it's not so busy. Okay, so she has all the lines ready for us. I'm going to come up underneath the fabric on one end of one of the lines. And then you can see that she wants us to create a curve here. And so to do that, I'm going to make my stitch more dense than I would if this was supposed to be a straight line. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to put my needle down at the other end of this and rock it back up into the same hole, but I'm not going to pull it through. What I'm going to do is take my thread. You might get the feeling that this is similar to a French knot. It's not really, but it does remind me of a French knot. I'm just going to wrap this thread around the needle, and here I am using 3 strands of thread, so it's much thicker than last time. And you can wrap it around the needle however many times you want to create the look that you want. So I'm kind of eyeballing it because I want it to be curved. I want more wraps around my needle to be, I want that to be longer than the line on my fabric. And that'll help it look curved. So I think that's good. I'm going to keep my thumb around those loops to keep it tight, and I'm going to pull my needle up slowly. Okay. As I pull, you can see it start to create that. Now I'm going to pull gently until we have that loop. And then I'm going to put my needle back down into this area. And there is our first one. So you can see how it stands up more if you put more loops on it in a shorter space. It'll have no choice but to kind of curve up like that. Okay, so I'll do that a couple more times for you. We're going to come up on one end. Go down, rock back up into the same hole. This is the one I was talking about. That's not really that complicated, but it took me a while to get the hang of it. Definitely have to use both hands here. Okay. And you can choose how many times you want it to wrap around your needle, depending on the look you want. So I really want it to curl up. So I'm putting a lot on there, but you don't have to do that if you don't like that. There we go. There's my second one. I'll do it one more time. Wrap it around the needle. In this, I just kind of work this part with my fingers as I pull on the needle to bunch all of those loops up. And then when I pull it back to the other side, it's really going to secure it in there. There we go. So that's how I created this look over here. And you can see in the pattern that you kind of build these on top of each other to create the flower. All right, there's our bouillon. Next, we'll do a spider web. So get this up here and then change my thread. So when you get these kits, the thread comes wrapped on a little cardboard piece like this, and I'm just going to unwrap it. Okay. And then the way that it comes is very long, so I like to put the two ends together and then cut it in half right here at the fold. Set one of those aside. Hi, Lynn. Lynn from Long Island. How's it going? Okay, so this one I'm going to use 2 strands. I'm going to pick apart 2 of my strands from this 6-strand DMC, and I pull on it like that so that they come apart. Something. Oh, I see. Okay, so this next stitch has a lot of different names. As I did a little bit of research, I found that different people call it different things. The thing it was most commonly called was the woven wheel, I think. But this pattern calls it the spider stitch because it kind of looks like a spider web. So 2 threads, or 2 strands of the yellow thread. Okay. Hey, Annie. Annie Joy. Annie, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Joy is my middle name. So I love your name. Okay, so here we have these 5-star, 5-pointed asterisk shapes. Okay, so what we're going to do is, first of all, just follow the line. And if you're doing this on any other project or pattern, just know that you will always need an uneven amount of these prongs. So this one has 5. You probably want to do 5 or 7, depending on the size of your project. I have this light here to make it better, but I feel like it's creating more shadows. Hi, Pamela. Thank you so much. All right. Here's what we're going to do. So now coming up in the center, what you're going to do, yeah, Joy, I figured that Joy is your real name because that's what we call you, so I felt like you told us that at some point, but I wasn't sure if Annie was your middle name or what. So lots of people, lots of our customers have fake Facebook names, and let me tell you guys, actually, let me tell you guys how many people I know 2 names for. Having to memorize that is so because all of our customers go by their Facebook names because they're purchasing from Facebook usually. I have to know who is this Facebook name goes with this customer in our system. And so anytime we've like had to hire a new employee or whatever, they're like, I can't find Annie Miller on our accounts or whatever, and I have to say, oh, it's Joy Miller, and you know, I have so many other people like that, and people get confused, but I'm proud of myself because I think my mom and I know all of them, and Madeline knew all of them too, and Bree's learning all of them, so it's pretty funny. Okay, so for this one, we've come up in the middle of this star shape, and you're going to start going over and under, alternating. So you're going to go over one, under another, over one, under another. So if you ever see me look at someone's Facebook name but then say a completely different name, it's because that's just literally how I don't know why, it's like a second language or something. Oh, it cracks me up. I won't realize I'm even doing it sometimes. Okay. So you can kind of see, can you see this start to take shape? This is a great stitch for roses. So this is what we're making here, is like a rose shape. And I just watched a video today where this lady used 12 strands. She used a 6-strand DMC folded in half on the biggest woven web ever, and it was so gorgeous. There are some really beautiful things that I'd love to make with hand embroidery. I just think it's so gorgeous. Over, under, over, under. Lynn, yes, so I didn't even know that you were one of those because you have another last name. I wasn't sure if it was your maiden name or if it was like a fake Facebook name or like what, but in our system, we put you in with your 2 last names, like, I forget what the other one is. It starts with a SCH, I think, slash Santoro. And I can picture it. I don't remember how to say it. But I had to get used to that one too. It's just funny at this point. We didn't know how many people do that, either for family reasons or political reasons or Facebook sucks reasons. Okay, so I am loving how this flower looks. So pretty. One thing you might notice is depending on how long you keep going like this, you might be able to see some of the points here at the end. So I'll show you how to hide those. What happened here? Oh, I went through one. Okay, this one's kind of already hidden. I can't even really see it. But if you want to hide those, then now that I'm done here, I'm going to take stitches outside of them to kind of conceal those points. Here and here. Okay, and then that should be good. So this is the woven wheel or the spider stitch. You can see how it's kind of like a web. Oh, it's starting to rain. Okay. Let's see. Fly is the last one that we have. So I'm going to end this thread. Actually, I'm just going to leave it on. I'm leaving these on the fabric, just taking my needle out because I know I'm going to have to use them later and I don't want to start and stop it. Lynn, so, you know, I think this happened with you. Some people, we just have always gone by their Facebook name, but then one day they'll place an online order. And when they place an online order, it goes into our system with a different name. And we're like, oh, there's 2 Lyns that live in the same place. And we realize, wait, that's the same person. And that's when we find out that it was a different name all along. But if we are calling you by the wrong name, you just need to let us know. Okay. My fly stitch is going to be in 2 different shades of green. Let's do the dark green. I actually have a dark green open right now, so I'm gonna Oh my gosh, my threads are going crazy. I love the little bag that I made for carrying around my project that I'm currently working on. However, I've decided I want a different bag for all of my DMC because it's not going to keep working like this. I want one, I might start storing all of them on those little cards you can get. I've only ever used that for cross stitch, but now that I'm doing embroidery more than cross stitch, then it would be worth it. Because some of these kits, like these two kits, use the same shade of green. So I don't really need to open the other one until I'm done with this one. Okay. Set that aside. Okay, so my fly stitch is my branches right here, and then this is going to be my last one tonight. I feel like I'm struggling with this DMC tonight, and I never do, but of course as soon as I have to do it on camera, they all want to separate in weird ways. Okay. The fly stitch, technically you could just trace this line with running stitches. That would not be a problem. But the fly stitch makes it just a little bit more, it looks a little bit more fluid on the fabric. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's do, oh, that rain's really coming down. Okay, let's do this branch right here. So I'm going to come in the top of the branch here. I'm going to put my needle down right where it gets to this V and rock it back up at the point of one of these V's. And then, this is the part that's fun, you put your needle down at the other point and rock it back up in the middle, right at the base of that one stitch you just made. And that's just going to make your thread wrap around this in a V shape. And then it just looks a little bit nicer and more put together than if you had like little straight individual stitches on their own. So let's go down there and then up on the branch, down on the other branch, and come up in the middle. So this one goes nice and quick, I feel. I'm almost done with this branch, so it doesn't take any time at all. And this one I think would look really nice with just one strand of thread, but to make it more thin, but I also like how it looks with two. So I don't think I would go more than 2 strands with this one. Pamela, yes, the replay will be available as soon as it ends. How do I end my thread? That's a good question. I'll show you that because I'll end this one. It depends on how far away I'm moving. So like this one, I'm just going right over here, so I wouldn't normally end it, but I can show you guys real quick. But if I was going like the only other place where there's dark green is all the way on the other side, I would end it and then start again. So this is what my back looks like with that stitch. I would just find a couple nearby stitches, go under them, and then I'm going to go under a second time and create a little loop here. Put my needle through twice, and then tighten it into the knot, and then trim it. And there's my fly stitch. All right, so you guys can see this is going to be a really cute little project. I love all the bright colors, very sunshine and springy. Okay. All right, you guys. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm going to log off here in a second. I'm not planning currently on doing a hand embroidery part 3 because this is most of the stitches that I encounter in her kits. And so I'm mainly doing it based off these kits, but I have been very into hand embroidery lately, just watching lots of videos and looking at other kits and things like that. So if I encounter any new techniques I'd love to share with you guys, then I might be doing a part 3. But for now, this is the end to the hand embroidery mini series. Next week, I'm very excited. We're going to be working on English paper piecing part 2. So we have already learned how to make our hexies. And if you have not learned that, you can go back. It wasn't called part 1 because I didn't know it was going to be a part 1, but it's just called English paper piecing. You can watch that on replay as well. And then this one, we're going to show you how to whip stitch 2 hexagons together. And so this will help you make a little hexagon flower. And hopefully I'll be having a guest teacher with me that time. I'm going to just confirm with her before I promise with you guys, but I'm pretty sure I will be having an awesome helper next week to learn how to English paper piece little hexies together. And that's going to help any of you guys who might be considering doing the summer moon block of the month, or not summer moon, summer fun block of the month, which has 3 EPP hexie flowers. So I just wanted to create videos to help you guys. So I did the English paper piecing part 1 was making the hexie pillow, and that one paper piecing wise was pretty easy because you don't have to sew the hexies together, you just quilt them onto the pillow. So if you ever want to do anything that requires you to sew the 2 together, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And then after that, I will be on a break for 2 weeks for my wedding and my honeymoon. So next week will be the last one until May. And then in May, we'll be working on the sew together bag. So I know lots of you guys are looking forward to that. Lots of you got the pattern. I think we sold 15 patterns on the live last week, which pattern-wise was a lot. So we're getting more. We did sell out of them, but we're getting more. I feel like sometimes, 15, that should be plenty. But then, nope, that wasn't enough. So we'll be getting more of those for the May Sip and Sews. Awesome, guys. Well, this was a lot of fun as always, and I will see you next week. Good night.